CNBC TV 18, celebrating 16 years of business leadership.
Every departments are trying their best to comply and to adhere each and every direction given by the NGT. But at the same time here, everybody is primarily targeted to get a kind of result whereby we can improve the ambient quality of Delhi.
बैन लगा दिया है कि इंटरिम मेजर के तौर पर गवर्नमेंट, कॉर्पोरेशन, पब्लिक बॉडीज, स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडीज डीजल व्हीकल्स नहीं खरीदेंगी.
There is a significant amount of investment made in diesel technology by almost every company which works today. All that investment will come under a cloud. Diesel technology over the last 15 years has undergone sea change, complete sea change. And to say that diesel technology is unclean is completely wrong.
Well, you cannot buy a diesel car in Delhi, at least till the next hearing of the National Green Tribunal. In a bid to clean up the capital's toxic air, the Green Tribunal has imposed a ban on registering new diesel vehicles as well as diesel vehicles that are more than 10 years old. A special discussion on the implications of this decision coming up for you. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Surbhi joins us from Mumbai. Surbhi, global markets are tanking as we speak.
Absolutely. What a week it's been, and there's no bottom in sight, at least as of now. We're still looking at US markets down 1%, Shireen.
Absolutely. So let's take our viewers through all the other top stories that we're tracking. A sell-off across global markets. Wall Street tanks over 1% ahead of the US Fed rate's decision next week. Crude oil prices crash, hitting fresh 6-year lows.
Disastrous week on Dalal Street as bulls get battered again. Major indices lose over 2% in the last 5 sessions to end near their lowest level in a year.
A weak October 2014 makes the year October look fantastic. Industrial output comes in at an impressive 9.8%, hitting a 5-year high thanks to the base effect.
Major reprieve for 11 cement companies. The Competition Appellate Tribunal sets aside a 6,300 crore rupee penalty imposed on them by the M&A watchdog for alleged cartelization. Cement stocks rally in trade.
Cane India takes the government to court over not extending its Rajasthan production sharing contract. Claims the government is dilly-dallying on the matter. More safeguards for the steel industry. The government imposes an anti-dumping duty of 5 to 57% on cold-rolled stainless steel imports from China, Korea, Europe, the US and other countries. TCS raises the red flag over the third quarter earnings, says the Chennai floods will have a material impact on revenues. A 40% GST demerit rate will force us to shut down plants in India, says COCA-COLA. Also adds that higher tax is not in line with the Make in India drive. AirAsia India in turmoil after minority shareholder Arun Bhatia alleges the airline is being controlled from Malaysia. But sources say the boardroom battle could be limited to the shareholder seeking a hefty premium to exit. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe arrives in India for a 3-day state visit. Bullet train and civil nuclear deal tops the agenda. Dow Chemicals and DuPont agree to merge operations in an all-stock deal. The merged entity valued at a whopping $130 billion. As you can see, we've got a packed show lined up for you this Friday evening, but very quickly we do want to address the global markets because they are in a tailspin as we speak. Wall Street is getting walloped. All the major indices are trading with deep cuts of over 1%. Next week is a crucial week as the US Fed is scheduled to announce its much-awaited policy decision, and all indications do seem to suggest that Janet Yellen will announce that much-awaited, maybe not much awaited, but much watched Fed liftoff. The market's bracing for that rate hike. The dollar index relatively steady as we speak, but US Treasuries are on the climb. The 10-year yield is now nearly 3%. at this point in time. It's not a pretty picture across the Atlantic either. European markets have ended with sharp cuts, stocks tumbling in tandem with the US equities, and crude oil prices have also impacted sentiment. Crude oil now has hit its lowest level in 6 years. Prices are down by over 2% as we speak. Brent is below $39 and NYMEX is now trading at about 36, down by almost 2%. Paul Schatz, the president at Heritage Capital LLC, joins us. Paul, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Very quickly, your take on the way that we're seeing the markets fall today. Is this in anticipation of what the Fed may do next week, or is this largely on account of what we're seeing happen in the crude markets?
Thanks for having me. I think this is more the latter. I think this is more the crude oil trade and the crude oil collapse. This is crude oil has been down from over $100 a barrel into the mid-30s, but the recent selling has been relentless. This, in crude oil especially, this is certainly the final capitulation. Throw the baby out with the bathwater, any other cliche you want to use. Regarding the Fed, this is kind of almost as I'm going to script it. If the market sells off into the Fed meeting, which it has, I believe it's going to rally when the Fed raises rates a quarter point at 2 p.m. next Wednesday. So I think this is the most predicted move from being accommodative to a tightening phase that we've ever seen. It's baked in the cake for the market. The market's expecting a quarter point. I think we'll get a quarter point. I think the markets rally from that point all the way into January.
Okay, so you're saying it's pretty much factored in and it is a done deal that the lift-off will happen next week. But what could that mean, Paul, as far as emerging market flows are concerned? Because that's what people here in India are going to be watching out for.
Sure, and I think it's the same thing. The emerging markets have been bracing and preparing for the Fed to hike rates. So I don't think there's going to be any added selling pressure just because the Fed raised rates. Everybody who thought it was coming has positioned for it already. The dollar rallied sharply in anticipation of the Fed rate hike. So from there, the question is going to be for 2016, how much the Fed continues to raise rates, and I think it's going to be once a quarter, which will get us to about 1 3/8 Fed funds rate by the end of 16. I don't think that as the Fed raises rates, people are going to begin to panic. I think whatever's happening is happening way in advance of that.
But is there panic when it comes to crude, Paul, at this point in time, and what we're seeing play out in the markets, in the equity market specifically, on account of that?
So I do not see panic in the equity markets at all. I think that this is somewhat of an orderly decline. It's also very seasonally predicted. Markets are normally weak in early December. They typically bottom next week, and I do think they're going to. I do think, regarding panic, there is definitely panic in the crude oil markets, and you're seeing. I wouldn't be surprised in hindsight if you learn that a couple of funds were overweighted in crude and had to get liquidated, but this is certainly the capitulation phase in crude. It doesn't mean crude's going back to 60 or 80 anytime soon, but I think crude's going to hit some kind of low, in the next couple of trading days, maybe a week, and then rally, have some kind of bounce into the new year.
All right, Paul, we'll have to leave it there. Appreciate you joining us here. Paul Schatz, their president at Heritage Capital, talking about why the global markets are trending much lower today, and largely on account of the capitulation that we're seeing in the crude markets. But back home, the bears are all over Dalal Street. A terrible day to end a terrible week as major indices lost more ground. The Nifty barely managing to hold the 7,600 mark, losing nearly 1%. The Sensex is just a whisker away from 25,000 after losing over 200 points. For the week, both the indices have lost over 2%. Anuj here to wrap up the day's trading action. Anuj, thank God it's Friday, but should we brace ourselves for more downside next week?
Well, tough question, but the fact is that this is a market in which bears are in pole position and they are dictating terms right now. So there could be some profit booking given that the market has been so oversold, but the fact remains that we are pretty close to 52-week lows. In fact, today also the market reversed all of yesterday's gains, ended at almost a low point, and we're now just 60 points away from the 52-week lows on the Nifty. So that's the kind of position that we are in right now. Let's talk about some of the stocks then that led the market to this kind of decline. led by banks again. In fact, the bank nifty is precariously poised right now. Take a look at some of the big banking names. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, all of them lower quite a bit. ICICI Bank, in fact, at a new 52-week low. In fact, talking about 52-week low, there are some more names at 52-week lows. PNB, Larsen & Toubro, and Bharti Airtel all hitting the yearly lows. In terms of some other stocks which, led the decline in the market, we had stocks like Tata Motors, ONGC, and Grasim all lower by about 2%. There were some winners. Tata Steel clearly was the big winner in today's trade, up about 3.5%. Apart from that, you had some support for the market from the likes of Lever and Infosys. And finally, to the broader market then, a lot of pain in individual names, stocks like JSW Energy, Unitech, India Bulls Real Estate, all of these, of course, F&O names as well. Some more names like HDIL, IFCI, Motherson Sumi. So all in all, a bad day, a bad week, and now all eyes are on that 52-week low of 7540.
All right, Anuj, thank you for that. Speaking of the markets, the Fed rate hike is on everyone's lips. Minister of State for Finance, Jayant Sinha, in a written reply to a question in the Lok Sabha today, raised an alarm over an imminent Fed rate hike. Sinha said, and I quote, "Unease in investor sentiment is likely to increase ahead of the imminent divergence in advanced economy monetary policy stances," end quote. But even as Sinha raises an alarm about there being an increase in unease in investor sentiment ahead of that impending Fed rate hike, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan says that the RBI was prepared for this hike.
We don't have any independent assessment, but looking at the market probabilities, our sense is 70 to 75% probabilities seem to be of the Fed increase. I also think the Fed has prepared the way fairly carefully for an increase, so likely at this point they will go ahead. At least that is our betting. I don't know how much it would be. My guess is not more than 25 basis points, but it could be anywhere between 0 and 25, probably between 1 and 25.
Well, reactions there to the possibility of the Fed hiking rates next week. But on to the big macro story. Industrial output in October has risen by a whopping 9.8%. Now, before you uncork the champagne, this is largely thanks to the base effect. Latha joins us now with her analysis. Latha, base effect aside, are there any signs of more green shoots?
Well, it is largely base effect that makes this 9.8% number. But there are some signs that in many cases the number was also better than the previous month, not just a year ago, October. October 2014 was a disastrous month, but some of the October 2015 numbers are even better than September 2015, which means there appears to be really good growth. Among them is electricity. That grew by 11.4% in September. It's grown by 9% in October, and it's not because of a low base. Likewise, mining. It's not a low base. In fact, it's a higher base than September. Nevertheless, mining has put in a 4.7% growth compared to a decent 3% growth in September as well. Mining was in negative terrain for some 24 months in 2013 and 2014. Within manufacturing, which accounts for 80% of IIP, capital goods clearly benefited from a low base, but even otherwise, it's a 16% growth, and it's coming on top of a 10% growth in the month of September as well. So capital goods marginally helped by low base, but still a very good performance. Basic goods and intermediate goods also indicate growth per se and not because of low base. Where the low base has really come in handy is in consumer goods. That was a disastrous performance in October of 2014. So compared to that, an 18.4% growth looks definitely overstated. In September, the comparable number was 0.6%. So devoid of the base effect, perhaps consumer goods grew maybe by 4 or 5%. Consumer durables, again, is a 42% growth. That is because there was a 35% contraction year ago. Even netting that off, there is at least a 5-6% growth in consumer durables, and likewise in consumer non-durables, there is even taking out for the poor base, there is a little bit of growth. So what you can say is base has helped, but growth in October is better than growth in September.
It's a high number, it's a good number, it's an encouraging number, but one has to be a little bit careful about interpreting all monthly numbers, especially this one, because there is a Diwali effect in this number, because this year Diwali fell in October, last year it was in November, so there's going to be a kind of boost to the October number because of Diwali being different this year than last year. So good number, hope this continues, but shouldn't read too much, never should read too much into month-to-month numbers.
So good IIP number there, but do keep in mind the base effect. But moving on, if you're living in Delhi, you cannot buy a new diesel car. The National Green Tribunal, that's the NGT, has ordered the state government not to register any new diesel vehicles at least till the 6th of January. That's the date that the Green Tribunal will hear this pollution case again. Not just that, diesel vehicles which are more than 10 years old cannot be registered in Delhi either. Ronojoy Banerjee joins us now with the details of the tribunal's order. Ronojoy, there's been a lot of confusion on this, but finally it is clear. As per the NGT order, you cannot register a new diesel vehicle pending further orders from the NGT, which I would imagine would happen on the 6th of January, which is the next date of hearing.
Well, that's right, Shireen. In fact, around 6 o'clock when the order was put up, and since then when the true import and significance of this judgment came in and sunk in, I've been in touch with, many of the CEOs of the auto companies, and they are obviously in a sense of shock right now. They're yet to sort of absorb the true implications of this order because, as you said, starting today, till the 6th of January, in all practical purposes, diesel vehicles cannot be sold because it says no new diesel vehicles can be registered in Delhi. Now, what, however, the auto industry sources are telling me is that they will be going in and seeking legal opinion. In fact, that is a confirmation that I just now got from somebody, and they will be sort of spending, over the next few days to sort of, try and understand what the legal recourse would be. But what they are, however, importantly saying is that while, yes, as far as the NGT order is concerned, till the 6th of January, no new diesel vehicles can be sold, but they will get clarity on the 15th of December when the Supreme Court also takes up a similar petition. So, so this environment where nobody knows what to do is not going to last indefinitely. It's by the 15th of December, either way, either Supreme Court is going to sort of, in their own wisdom, will perhaps, may go ahead and impose a ban on diesel vehicles like NGT did, or they may not. So whatever the case may be, on the 15th of December, we will know, sort of the larger implications of this. But apart from that, one demand of the auto sector that they have had for a long time is of a scrap it scheme. Clearly, this is the first time that, that a court has upheld that view in a sense, where they've clearly said that diesel vehicles beyond 10 years should not go in for another registration. So we need to wait and watch, but clearly we can expect more reactions from the auto sector. Right now, nobody's willing to come on record and sort of speak because this is really an existential crisis for companies like M&M, but we may hear more from them maybe early next week, Shireen.
All right, the auto industry is not happy with the decision of the NGT. 30% of Maruti's total sales from diesel. For Tata Motors, it's as high as 50%, and for M&M, it's the entire portfolio. M&M only makes diesel cars, so will be the worst impacted if this ban were to come into effect. If the Supreme Court upholds the ban on diesel vehicles, as of now, the NGT ban is an interim measure till the next date of hearing, which is the 6th of January. So here's the reactions coming in from the auto sector.
Banning or taking petrol cars off the road, which are 75% of Delhi's cars, is not going to make any impact on the concentration of PM 2.5. Not being sold is not going to have any impact on the existing level of pollution. Because you're talking of how to reduce current level of pollution, which are at very dangerous levels. And that is being caused not by only passenger vehicles which are diesel, but it's being caused to a much greater extent by the trucks which come to Delhi from outside, which are diesel operated, because Delhi registered vehicles are CNG.
I think it's very easy to say you can ban, etc., a lot of other things. But I think the key issue is we have to reduce pollution. Okay? We have to look after the environment. There's no question about that. I fully support whatever is required to reduce emission. We can't have this kind of weather. Now, certainly have been proposing that 10-year-old cars, there should be a way of how to incentivize or recycle them, 10-year, 15-year-old cars, whatever. That position is going on. We are producing cars in Delhi for BS4 as per the fuel availability, which is a very high standard of effluent. And whenever BS5 fuel is available in 1919, we will all do that as well.
Reactions coming in there from the auto sector. Now, the NGT's order has ruffled many feathers. Will the blanket ban on diesel cars solve Delhi's pollution woes? Earlier, I spoke with a very special panel of guests to discuss Delhi's diesel dilemma and pollution woes.
We need to understand the problem from the very basics. WHO survey has revealed that out of 1,600 major cities spread over the world, Delhi is the most polluted. We are living in an extremely emergent situation, and that is why we need very emergent solutions also. Yeah. See, the NGT recommendation and decision of Delhi government, they all need to be seen as emergency solutions.
I understand that there was a review meeting that was held yesterday. In the interim, what can we expect as bridge solutions to try and ease the inconvenience that will be caused once the odd and even policy comes into effect?
I understand the question from where it is coming. The public transport in Delhi is not equipped to take the load of entire Delhi. I don't understand what sort of measures have been taken by the previous governments, but we are working overnight. We want to bring out a solution. As to hell, he's today on the panel. he was suggesting we have to have last mile connectivity. We are working on this last mile connectivity, and possibly within next 6 months, we will have a very committed last mile connectivity for people of Delhi to depend on public transport.
We are seeing a flip-flop when it comes to policymakers, when it comes to the government, but you're also seeing sort of different messaging coming out, for instance, from the NGT. Now this matter is being heard by the Supreme Court. So even from an administrative point of view, you don't really know what is going to happen over the next 24 hours. A decision taken today may be dated tomorrow, given that there are various agencies or various courts that are now looking at this particular issue. Just to put some sanity into this entire process, do you believe that everything should now move to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court should take a final call?
No, I don't. I think it is a Delhi government matter, but they should be left to handle it independently. If they get mixed signals every now and again, it is only going to derail what is happening. This is not the time for each individual organization to look for a place in the sun. It is a time that everything works in tandem. You can't consult the public, take their opinion, and by public I mean having long public shows and ask them how will you reach your wedding and how will you reach the hospital. It is for governments to work out these things. Inconvenience will be there. I wish everyone would stop giving mixed messages. This is far too serious a situation. It can be handled, and it should be left to the Delhi government to handle.
You know, this business of should there be exemptions for women, should there be exemptions for people who work so-called essential services. I mean, those are the exemptions that the government is considering at this point in time. But you believe that those exemptions will lead to people finding loopholes, and this, scheme that the odd and even scheme, for instance, that the government is trying to put in place will fall by the wayside?
Absolutely. And why do you want to gender discriminate? With all due respect to women, the only exemption should be made for emergency vehicles which are attached to hospitals, police vehicles, not the normal police vehicles which are going around doing nothing but littering, and it should be for key government emergency response departments. That's it. B, you need to replace the populism with reality and pragmatism. You need to get two-wheelers under the ambit of this new law. You need to clarify to people who live in Gurgaon and Noida as to what will happen to their rights. Number 3, Bharti talked about power plants and all. These guys have come to government, God bless them. Power agreements is not like ordering pizzas. You have to have agreements for 25, 30 years because companies are making investments. So you suddenly can't overnight say, look, sorry, I don't like your face, I'm going to shut you down.
Yeah, but
what are you going to do with power? You'll suddenly be missing power just because you've got great environment. Let's think everything through. What is really welcome is that Kejriwal and his government have put this issue on the table, which was an issue which needed to be put on the table. For that, I doff my hat to him. Now comes stage 2, which is iron everything out, make a calibrated response. Don't take everyone's feedback. In India, everyone has an opinion and is an expert on everything. Ask reasoned, seasoned experts as to what should be done, and then get on with the goddamn job.
Vivek Chattopadhyay, we're talking about pollution on account of cars, we're talking about pollution on account of two-wheelers, but what about trucks? Nobody's addressing that, and that is a cause, a major cause of the pollution that we're seeing in Delhi. The NGT has tried to impose the green tax. That hasn't worked so far. Nobody's talking about pollution caused by trucks.
See, the Supreme Court order is there that pollution tax to be taken, and it has for the first time rationalized the toll tax. Earlier what happened, Delhi, the government had a very less toll tax, so truckers used to use Delhi routes. Now it is equalized with the other alternative routes. So I think there is a solution to divert the trucks, and definitely you need to impose not just the pay and pollute thing, so you need to check them, so you can take tough action on the polluting trucks. But for the time being, I think all these strategies should not be compared with each other. All the strategies are important, and we cannot say two-wheelers, cars, dust. We have to act on everything because it all
has to be a multi-pronged approach. But what about data? And you know, it boggles the mind that at this point in time, the NGT is questioning the veracity of the IIT Delhi study. The NGT has asked the government to put data together, which the government so far hasn't been able to. That we don't actually have data of this problem that has persisted for so long now and has only been getting worse day by day?
See, the issue is like when you do the study, if it is a summertime or winter time, or when at what period the study has happened. For example, some study has been done in 2007, 2011. Recently, all the numbers will be looking different. The ratios may change. For example, in the winter time, you have very less wind speed. So your vehicle's contribution is very high because there is no dust coming from other third deserts. So I think the scenario is that you cannot trade any strategy with another strategy. We have to act on with all the might
So the three things that you would like to see being put in place at this point.
I would like to say that we must create one emergency response protocol and fix the responsibilities and accountabilities for all the departments so that this happens with ease. And definitely if there is a coordination issue, we must set up a control room and we should monitor and implement it thoroughly.
Sudeshna Chatterjee, as an architect and an urban planner, what are the ideas that you would like to put on the table? Because we need a holistic solution at this point in time. This piecemeal approach cannot work. The band-aid solutions cannot work any longer.
Yeah, see, most of our, whatever we are discussing, and nobody is in dispute that we really need emergency measures, but these measures are all reactive. We also need to invest in preventive strategies. We also need to look at the whole universe of causes that is causing air pollution. And evidence is the first thing that we need on the table, seasonal variations. We also need to understand who are the most vulnerable populations to air pollution. You know, everybody is of course affected, but then there are some who are more affected, like young children. And Somnath Bharti talked about the high instances of childhood asthma in the city of Delhi. So we need to even look at policies like New York has, like asthma-free school zones, where they don't allow cars to idle the engine for more than a minute. They're not allowed to come and park there. Many other such strategies are there. We also need to look at the slums, because they're always in the most polluted parts of the city anyways, and that they're very high density populations, they're citizens. So what kind of measures are we going to look at? And most importantly, we also need to address these issues within the master plan of Delhi, which is the fourth master plan is being prepared right now. We are talking about public transport all the time. We need to ensure that most of our density, whether it's for residential as well as for institutional workplaces, are along public transport.
Let me bring in Jagdish Khattar, the former managing director of Maruti Suzuki, into this conversation. Mr. Khattar, do you fear that this is now fast becoming a conversation only about diesel, and this is fast becoming a conversation of how to check
check the growth of automobiles on the roads in Delhi, and perhaps because that's the softer target, that's the lower hanging fruit, that this is what everybody is going to go after, but the larger issue and the larger picture is yet to be addressed, or we're not even taking steps to resolve those. It's only going to be address diesel, address vehicular pollution.
No, I entirely agree. I mean, let me start by saying very quickly that it is a major problem. It's a major problem, and it is not a new problem. It has been known for years, and authorities have been doing nothing about it. Therefore, the courts have had to step in, and the problem arises that there are so many tribunal courts, high court, Supreme Court, that everyone comes with his own solution, which I feel is like a knee-jerk, because they get frustrated, no one is doing anything about it. And that is why, as you mentioned, first of all, go to the automobiles, in the automobiles, go to diesel and in cars. I mean, that's not going to solve the problem. Again, I'm saying there is a problem, but we need a very comprehensive, and I think the Chief Justice of India yesterday was correct in saying we need a comprehensive plan. We need all stakeholders to be there. We need an immediate, medium and long-term plan. Only then we can move forward.
CNBC TV 18, celebrating 16 years of business leadership.